Okay, I am in Barcelona, Spain, and I'm going to give you my top cool, interesting, weird, surprising facts about Barcelona. So I've been here for a few weeks. I've been looking around, checking things out, and there are definitely a few things that surprise me. Now, we're going to talk about how people live, we're going to talk about food, we're going to talk about some nudity. We have a lot to get into. So let's start with the number one thing that actually surprised me right away, and that is siestas. They are a real thing. Now, look, I've heard of Spanish siestas. If you haven't heard of it, it's like, well, it's considered really like a nap time or like a lunch time. It's like maybe the middle of the day, you leave work, you go get something to eat, you take a nap, you go back. But I thought that was like a relic of the past. I thought that was like an old school thing that people used to do back in the day. But like, no, no, siestas are alive and well today. People are doing them now. So it's definitely more prominent, of course, in non-touristy areas versus in touristy areas, right? So if you're like down in La Rambla and you're going to Starbucks, they're going to be open, okay? But if you're trying to go to the pharmacy, a library, even some grocery stores, absolutely. So the pharmacy near where I'm staying is closed every day between 2 and 4:30, I think it is. The library closes on certain days for a siesta. I was really, really surprised. But like it really is real. Like it actually happens. People close their businesses in the middle of the day. It's not like that in Paris. You know, I'm an American. I live in Paris, France. So I find myself sometimes comparing, like, oh, this is different than Paris, right? I think I knew how things were like. France isn't that far away, right? We obviously border Spain. So I expected, I don't know, for a little bit more similarities, but it's cool to see all these differences. So let's get into the next one. Number two. Apparently, it is always beer o'clock in Spain, here in Barcelona. I was really surprised with how early I would see people drinking beer. 9 a.m., 10 a.m. It was not a problem. People were up drinking beer early in the morning, and you know what? I was kind of surprised. In Paris, I will see people. Yeah, I'm American, but I do live in Paris, so I'll see people having cocktails. Maybe midday, occasionally wine with lunch is definitely sort of common, not a big deal. But I do not see people having beer in the morning in Paris. So it's definitely something that surprised me here, and I was kind of like, huh, okay. Continuing the theme with like consumables, we can go from beer into number three, which is weird, really weird potato chip flavors. When I was in the grocery store, I saw really odd flavored chips, which is something that I also found like in Thailand. But I wasn't expecting that here. I don't see it so much in Paris. But here, one of the strangest ones we found were fried egg flavored potato chips. Now, I'm a vegan, so I did not try those. My husband did. But in retrospect, I should have read the label because I wonder if it was just artificially flavored egg. Just because something is egg flavored doesn't necessarily mean there's really egg in it. Anyway, I don't know. Those chips have long since been eaten. But they do have these weird flavored chips. And so, to give you a little review of the chips, my husband did try them. He said they tasted like egg. Yeah, they tasted like egg. And I didn't realize when he was eating them. I like walked into the room and there was like a funky smell in the air and kind of like, what is going on in here? I didn't know what to say at first because, maybe it wasn't the chips, I don't know. I didn't know the source of the smell when I first walked into the room. But okay, it was the chips. I put it together like, okay, that was the funked out smell that was happening. And he said he would not buy them again, but I think it was an experience. But like he also ate them all, so they couldn't have been too bad. So weird flavored chips is definitely a thing. Okay, and here's another fun fact: Barcelona is very hilly. So check it out. Right now, I'm actually in Park Güell, which is a popular tourist destination here in Barcelona. And there are some really cool lookout areas where you can see the whole city below. So you can see that is the view from here at the top. You can see Barcelona. So it's not just that the city is down below. The city is also kind of within the hills, right? It's not quite as dramatic in some areas as like San Francisco, but it's definitely a hilly city. So something to be mindful of. If you're looking on the map and you see like something is nearby, it might be nearby, it might also be uphill. So something to be mindful of if you come and visit. Another thing that really surprised me, which in retrospect, I think it really shouldn't have been so much of a shock, but that is the Latin influence here. You know, of course, we know that, well, Spain is a Spanish speaking country. Here in Barcelona, they speak Spanish and they speak Catalan. Uh, but I was surprised by the amount of Latin American people and the Latin American influences here. Like the first woman that I spoke to here, she was from, I can't remember now. She was from like Peru or Argentina. It wasn't Argentina, but she was from another country, but you know, it was a Spanish speaking country. And on top of that, like the culture has really sort of infused from a lot of these different countries. For example, empanadas are everywhere. It's like a Spanish food now. Okay, so empanadas, although they're not from Spain, they are all over the city. Tacos are also huge. Mexican food is huge. So the Spanish influences are really strong. The Latin American influences are really strong, which kind of took me by surprise. But at the same time, I think maybe it shouldn't have. You know, like once I said it out loud, it was like, well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But Spain is far from Latin America. You know, it's not like when you're in LA, of course, there's a strong, you know, Mexican influence. You're close to Mexico, like when you're in Texas or something like that. I mean, there's a number of hours on a plane separating Spain from Latin America. So, but those people have traveled, they are here, and they have brought their food and different cultural items with them, and it's a cool part of the city, but it also took me by surprise a little bit. Another interesting food thing is breakfast sandwiches. So, breakfast sandwiches are common, and off the bat, that does not seem super weird. But the breakfast sandwiches that they ate are unlike breakfast sandwiches that I see in France or in the US. So, the breakfast sandwiches are actually kind of unique and interesting. So, in the US, when I think of a breakfast sandwich, I usually think of something that is warm. We have a lot of breakfast burritos, but of course they aren't all burritos, but something warm and something that has egg. In Barcelona, the breakfast sandwiches have neither of those components. They're not warm, there's no egg in them. It's usually either like a really thin looking baguette with meat and cheese, or the vegetarian version will have cheese and like a tomato spread. But I was really surprised by this. You know, I don't know, and also those sandwiches look a little heavy to me. Seems like kind of a lot to get down for breakfast. And those same sandwiches aren't really a thing for lunch, so they will actually stop serving sandwiches around like 11:30. It's like sandwich time is over, which I also thought was like, okay, not quite what I expected. Another weird kind of sandwichy thing is that if you see bikinis, this is not swimwear. Bikinis are actually sandwiches here, which really took me by surprise. You know, I saw like a bikini shop. I thought I was going to go buy some swimwear. Not at all the case. That is food. The next thing that really surprised me is actually how vegan friendly Barcelona is. So I'm kind of astounded. I'm just walking around Barcelona and I'm stumbling upon places that are vegan and gluten free by chance. This city is way more vegan friendly than I ever imagined. When I talked to people and told people I was going to Barcelona, a lot of people are like, oh my God, it's probably going to be so hard for you. There's no food. Barcelona, Spanish people love meat. So I think that's true. Spanish people do eat a lot of meat, but the vegan scene is surprising. So I visited two vegan grocery stores, didn't even scratch the surface. There are many more, just like 100% vegan grocery stores. Even the non-vegan grocery stores carry lots of vegan items. Now look, does every restaurant have vegan things on their menu? No. So the tapas scene, of course, is very strong, very prominent. There are some vegan tapas that exist that are just, you know, accidentally vegan, like the pan con tomate, just bread with tomato. Olives are a big vegan tapa. You know, the potatoes that they have sometimes can be vegan. So there are definitely vegan things on even non-vegan menus, but there are a ton of vegan restaurants and a ton of vegan-friendly restaurants, especially if you're in neighborhoods like Gracia and in Bourne. those two particular neighborhoods and La Rambla. So there's just a lot. And see, and even now I want to add more neighborhoods to say that they also have good vegan options. But I found vegan places by chance. Like I flagged a bunch of places I wanted to see, but I still stumbled upon places with a lot of vegan friendly options while walking around. This next surprise was not a very pleasant thing to learn about the city, and that is that there is a lot of anti tourism sentiment here. Just when you think you're in Spain living your best life, you see a sign like this, and it's like, okay. So basically, a lot of the times when I was walking around the neighborhood, in every neighborhood I walked around, at some point I saw a sign that said, "Tourists, go home." And as a tourist, that felt a little bit alarming, to me, because it also wasn't a one off. Like, I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I saw the sign. I didn't see the sign at all today, so I've been out for a little while and I haven't seen a sign, so I'm not going to say I saw a sign every day. But I think today's the first day that I've been out that I didn't see a sign of just some graffiti. So apparently, the anti-tourism sentiment is kind of involved. Like, of course, when tourists come to a city, rents can go up. Some people say that it's the drunk, loud tourists that the locals don't like. I don't know exactly, but it's not a new thing and it's not an isolated event. This has been going on for years, even before COVID and after. So it's a part of the city that for me felt like a little bit of a bummer, because to feel sort of unwanted to me is kind of disappointing as a visitor, because tourists do bring some bad things potentially when they come to a city, but they bring some good things too. We hope. So for me, it left me kind of like, it was sort of a disappointing element of visiting Barcelona, was seeing all the signs and kind of having to deal with the fact that I guess a good portion of the population doesn't want tourists here. But I should also add, I met a lot of really, really friendly people. Like sometimes I think people do value negative opinions more than positive ones and put more weight on like the bad experiences over the good ones. So I really don't want to do that. So I will say that taxi drivers, people at shops, just like random people that I encountered, I met a lot of really, really nice people. I encountered one jerk too at a vegan restaurant, no less, which was very disappointing. Will not be going back to that particular place. But in general, really, people were very nice, very welcoming. But the anti tourism sentiment is visible when you walk around. Okay, the next thing that surprised me. Let's talk about nudity a little bit. Let's talk about the beaches. So I was even shocked that, Barcelona is on the water. So there are beaches just right in the city, on the edge of the city. And so I was surprised by A, how crowded those beaches are, but those beaches are also nudist beaches. So on that beach, you don't have to be nude, but it's certainly a viable option. Men, women, it doesn't matter. You can have a little bit out, you can have it all out. All is welcome there. And that kind of took me by surprise, because I figured, okay, I know that a lot of European countries, Spain and France too, will have nudist beaches, but I thought those were the beaches that were maybe like a little bit more out of the way, not in the main area. But no, here in Barcelona, the main beach, tons of people in the middle of the city, basically, like, that's a nudist beach. And I was surprised. Another surprising thing about Barcelona are the festivals. So I just happened upon a festival while I was visiting here. I'm going to post a little bit more about that and my top things to do in Barcelona video. So if you haven't seen that and you want to see more of the festival, you can check out some of that video. But the festival really took me by surprise. It's a cool thing that the city has in different areas, and it is something fun to do. The whole family can come out and see this, but it was like a little bit more elaborate, more involved, and just the energy of it all was just really, really fun. It was a surprising thing that we discovered. So we actually didn't plan this trip around the festival or know that the festival was happening. So it was literally something we happened upon by chance. But it was a pleasant surprise, and yeah, if you're here, it's definitely worth checking out. Okay, so a very surprising thing, which I sort of knew coming into this, but Spanish people eat really late. Like they eat dinner really late. So my husband had dinner with some Spanish friends. I think they didn't eat until like 10 p.m. Like for me as an American, that's outrageous. I mean, even in France, people eat later than I like to eat. So I like to eat dinner actually around 6:30 or 7. That's perfect for me. In France and Paris, restaurants don't even open until 7, 7:30, you know. So I would say normal dinner time in Paris, I think it's like 8 o'clock, 8:30, maybe even. It's like a normal dinner time. But here in Spain, they're making it even later. So if you go to a Spanish person's house, if you go there at like 8, don't go hungry. That meal is not starting. That meal is not starting for a while. So keep that in mind. And our last item, which is surprising if you're an American or depending on what country you live in, this is actually something that Spain has in common with France. But it's surprising, I think, if you're a foreign tourist, and that is that if you are visiting in August, which is when I'm here, August is the month where people go on holiday, and like a lot of people, businesses close. Lots of things close in August. So to me, the surprising thing is that, yeah, here in Spain, they do that too. So lots of things are closed. So some cool markets that I went to, they were open technically, but like maybe half of the vendors were closed. Some businesses were closed for half of the month. Some places that I wanted to see, I didn't get to see. I visited for a few weeks, but some places, are open, some places are closed. So if you visit in August, be mindful that although August is a month that has a lot of different tourists in the city, it's also a month where a lot of locals leave. And when they leave, they close their businesses. So, those are all of my surprising things that I discovered here. What did you find surprising? Any? None? Were you like, I knew that? Or what is different in your home country? I'm really curious as to what you will think. If you haven't subscribed yet, come on, roam with me. Join us as we roam around the world. And there's a lot more coming up. So, I'll catch you in the next video.